Well, good afternoon and a very warm welcome to you all. Thank you very much for taking the time to join me on a very bright and sunny afternoon up here in Lancaster. Just to quickly introduce myself, my name is Stephen King. I am the commercial manager here at the Reed NCFE Partnership. For those of you who don't know who Reed NCFE are, we are a joint venture company, probably as you can guess, 50% owned by the recruitment agents Reed and 50% owned by the awarding organisation NCFE. Now, clearly coming from the Reed stable, we have our expertise is in employability or work preparation. Now, over the last few years, this has particularly focused on work preparation and employability skills in the context of work experience and apprenticeships. So it's obviously the work experience element I want to focus on this afternoon. So what are we going to look at? Now, first off, for me, work experience is the big challenge in FE at the moment. Providers are under extreme pressure to deliver on work experience, both in terms of finances and in terms of Ofsted gradings as well. And over the last few years, Reed NCFE have built up a steady amount of experience in delivering work experience placements for providers and also helping to prepare learners for the workplace. So hopefully I'll share with you some of the experiences we've got over the last few years with you on this webinar. I'll also do a very quick demo of a brand new progression to work experience blended learning program. We'll have a quick look at the systems, some of the resources and the tutor delivery interface that we've developed to support this program. We'll have a look at some national employability skills, stats, trends and themes, and these have come from our brand new diagnostic tool called BEST Test, or Baseline Employability Skills Test. And then we'll very quickly we'll run through some next steps and what feature developments we have coming. As you can see, we've got quite a busy half an hour, so if you have any questions, please feel free to access them through, or send them to me through the toolbar that you can see on the right hand side of your screen. If you pop in a question to there and send that through, if I have time at the end, I will make sure that I respond. If not, what I'll do is I will send an email following this webinar with the slides, with a recording as and when it's ready, and answering some of those questions. But please feel free to send them in as we go. So as I mentioned, for me, this is the big challenge, work experience within the further education sector. We have over the last few years delivered a number of thousands of learners into work experience placements. We've also worked with those learners to effectively and properly prepare them for those placements, so that one, they go into the placement and get the most out of it, and two, as much as possible, they have the skills and ability to find their own work placement. That's a really important skill to leave you with. So what have we learned over the last few years? Well, I've neatly categorised them into four. If you'd like to have a more detailed chat about these areas, please feel free to get in touch. But to quickly summarise, so number one is, in no particular order, is support. Now, expecting your curriculum areas and your tutors to meet all of the criterion, fulfil all the requirements for work experience on their own is not going to work, in my opinion. You will have some areas, so your typical areas where they have a lot of experience in doing this and have a long-standing history in doing this. So think care or early years, they will probably, in all truth, manage and be able to cope with these added demands. But those where they haven't got much experience in doing this, or indeed any experience in doing this in the past, so I think IT, business, media, those type of courses, they are really going to struggle to fulfil the necessary requirements without any dedicated and indeed expert support. So that's the first thing to think about there. The number two is proper planning, and by planning I don't necessarily mean looking at a curriculum area and thinking, okay, well, we have 200 learners we need to find on work experience placement for. Therefore, between September and May, we will find 200 placements done. Okay, that's the end of our planning. I mean specifically agreeing with each curriculum area within your college or provider or organisation a specific time in the year when their learners, their curriculum area learners, will go out on placement. For example, it is far better to agree with, say, construction. Okay, all of your learners that need to go out on work experience placement must go out on a work experience placement in the months of October and November. By doing this, by putting this such a tight time scale and a specific time frame on it, you instill a greater focus within a specific curriculum area on work experience within your tutors, with your support workers if you have them, and with your learners, so they can actually be very, very focused and very concentrated on the process of work experience. It also helps you to build excitement about it. If you're building a time frame within a short time frame when all the learners are going out on work experience, you can build a focus and an excitement about the process. It also makes it much easier to track progress, so you can accurately and effectively look, okay, within the months of October and November, how many of those learners have we actually got out? How many learners do we need to get out in the last couple of weeks if you're in mid-November? It helps you to properly plan and manage that time, that sort of workload across the whole of your organisation. And it also means that you can monitor progress and track how things are going, so you don't get to say May and realise actually we've still got quite a number of learners that need to go out on work experience and haven't yet done so, and you're not giving yourself much time to do anything about that. Lastly, within that, it gives your various curriculum managers, so it does give them a focus as well, so they can properly prepare their learners for that placement. If it's a very focused time, it gives them the ability to properly plan a programme that would facilitate them going out and finding their own work experience placement, so they can properly plan and make sure that the learners they're sending out are properly prepared, which is obviously very, very important, especially if you, in all likelihood, you're dealing with a lot more employers for work experience than you have previously. Which leads me on to using your employer network. Now, this is something is referred to very, very often. Use your employers, listen to your employer's business needs. So I won't sort of labour that point, but just to sort of mention, if you are placing learners from one curriculum area into a specific organisation, there is a lot of opportunity to place learners from other curriculum areas. So it is required is a kind of a coordination and a discussion between curriculum areas and understanding of other curriculum areas' needs. But a classic example is a hotel. So clearly they could take tourism students. They can also take business admin. They could take digital. They could take construction, for example, as handymen. Just to briefly revisit the digital area as well, that's probably one that's a very, very difficult area to fill. Now, as I mentioned before, I live in Lancaster. Within the city centre of Lancaster, we have two digital marketing agencies. Now, if they, for example, were to work with Lancaster and Morecambe College to take work experience place students, and Lancaster and Morecambe College had approximately 100 learners, say, on that course, there was no way, or needing work experience placement, there was no way that both of those agencies could take 50 students. But there is also a huge amount of small organisations within the city of Lancaster, lots of independent cafes and shops who clearly would benefit from some support and a work experience student going into their organisation. So if you start with the course is learning outcomes, look at those first rather than looking at the employers and rather than looking at the employer's business type. If you start with the learning outcomes, that makes that process a lot easier. Now, lastly, and probably in my view the most important element really, and the one you can have the most impact on, is improving your self-fill and participation rates. Now, by self-fill rates, I mean the number of learners who find their own placement for themselves. Now, as I said before, if you have given your curriculum managers the time frame in which they need to get learners out, they've properly prepared and planned their provision and their teaching and learning around that, they can run a program prior to the work experience months or period, which focuses, and it only needs to really focus on two things, two main pieces of content, and that's firstly is how to approach an employer over the phone, and secondly how to approach an employer in person. Now, if you can teach your learners one or both or either of those skills, you give them a much better chance of finding their own work experience placement. Now, clearly this is giving them much more experience of what it's like in the real world, what it's like when they're actually going to go and have to find a job once they leave you. So if you can get them to do that, they give them the confidence that they can do that, you give them the experience of approaching employers, you give them the understanding of the processes and everything that's involved. So it's really becomes a really important part of the learning process. The added benefit of that is, in truth, you probably increase your participation rates as well. If you have a learner who's found their own work experience placement, they are far more likely to be invested in that placement. If they've taken the time and energy to actually find it, they're far more likely to be invested in it, they're far more likely to turn up, they're far more likely to engage with the process and complete the placement. And in truth, they're probably more likely to see the placement through and invite one of their friends along. They may say, okay, well, I found myself this work experience placement, maybe another of my friends on the course will want to join me, and obviously that helps take away some of the nerves if there's two of them going. So suddenly you potentially, through one learner finding a placement, you're potentially filling two of your work experience placement requirements. Now, as I said, if you'd like to have a bit more of a conversation, happily put you in touch with various operations managers within the organisation who'd happily share and impart more of their experience in this process. But that last point leads me nicely onto the focus of today's webinar, which is our brand new Progression to Work Experience blended learning programme. So we have developed a completely off-the-shelf package. It comes complete with absolutely everything you need to deliver this program. So it comes complete with a scheme of work, session plans, tutor notes, a variety of activities, and a huge selection of e-learning resources. Now, what we're going to look at is what we've called the tutor interface. So this is the delivery tool with which the tutor could use. And the reason we've designed it for learners and tutors is we have developed in the past and we've offered to providers resources specifically and only for the learners. Now, we found that the levels of learner engagement when you provide a resource just for the learners isn't as high as we would like it to be. So we wanted to provide something that would help the tutors as well, so an engaging and interesting tool that would help tutors with their deliveries in an area where maybe this isn't their area of expertise. So the idea with everything being there is that they don't need to go away and research the latest job trends and the latest recruitment methods and the latest trends in recruitment. Clearly, we've lent heavily on Reed's expertise in the jobs market for this. They are the market leader in this area, so why would we not? But clearly we've taken that expertise and we've put our slant on it in terms of work experience and in terms of apprenticeships with another program. So it takes their expertise and puts it into the context of something that is relevant to the learners that you have. Now, the aims of the course primarily is to give your learners the skills and the confidence to go out and find their own work placement. If you're confident that they can attend and you're happy to put them into the workplace for placements, then why would you not be confident and happy with them going and finding their own placement? So that's a key kind of focus of that of this program. It's also giving them the skills to actually succeed in the placement, to actually get something out of that placement when they're there. And in the meantime, it gives them that confidence and understanding of the real world recruitment process and a confidence in having gone through that process already. So if we quickly, I will log into the interface. So as you can see, this program, the Progression to Work Experience program, is split into 4 individual sessions or sections. So as you can see here, we've got CV for work experience, job search for work experience, interview skills for work experience, and essentially workplace behaviours for work experience, or to give it another phrase, making the most out of your work experience placement. Now, as I said, it is a blended learning programme. We're going to focus in particular on the e-learning resources that we've got, because obviously they're the ones I can demonstrate on the screen, but clearly we don't expect you to deliver, for example, interview skills. They're very personal skills and very reliant on human interaction. We don't expect you to teach that via a screen. So it is blended. This tool is designed to support the delivery, and as I said, you get all of the activities and resources that I mentioned provided for you as well. So if we log into session 1, the CV for work experience, this is, as I said, one session. So normally you could split this session into approximately 2 hours of learning. So as a total program, you're looking at about 8 hours worth of delivery time. We've got a load of extension activities as well, which probably takes you up to around about 10 hours of learning time for each program, for this program. So as you can see on the right-hand side here, you can download a tutor pack, which contains all of the resources that the tutor needs. And if we go into the session, you can see right from the start, we've got a starter activity. So a quiz on the table, right from the start, the quiz is provided, the answers are provided. So again, no minimal tutor preparation time. But each session has this starter activity right at the start. And the idea behind that is clearly engaging learning from the start. And as you'd expect, you can move through this delivery interface left and right as you'd expect. So you can go through the activities as you would expect to be able to. What you can also do is you can jump between the various activity resources that we have. So we've got interactive resources. We have a variety of videos as well. So as you can see at the start, you've got the instructions for the tutor, and then one of the key elements, I think, and one of the key points to make with this is that it is all in one place. So this, quite often when you use e-learning resources in the classroom, what tends to happen is that, say, the tutor is in a PowerPoint, they have to come out of the PowerPoint, log into Moodle, for example, find the resource, load the resource, turn back to the class and realise that actually in the 10 minutes they've been trying to load this resource, they've lost the classroom. So the idea is that because it's all in one place, one click of the button, and the resource is loading. So I'll let this video play for a minute. Apologies if you can't hear the music. It may be just it's not quite coming. It's not very loud on my computer, and so it may not be coming through my microphone. But hopefully you can. If not, apologies. So what we tend to recommend when we're talking to tutors and providing training on how to use this resource is that for a video you would deliver this from the front. So you stand up, have this playing from the front of the classroom on a whiteboard, and you could either stop the video at various points on the way to reflect on what you've just watched, or watch the whole video through and then access the activities that feature after they watch the video. Now, I don't want to spend too long watching the video. What I will do, and I'm happy to do, is if you would like to see some more of the resources, send me an email after the webinar, and I'll happily set you up with a login so you can have a look at those some of these resources. Now, as I mentioned, we do have a number of interactive resources as well, so I'll jump back to one of those. And again, as you can see, you've got all of the tutor notes, the supportive notes with the correct answers and justifications for those correct answers as well. And again, one click and we're straight into the activity. Now, I've recently watched a session where this resource was used, and it was used, well, I've watched 2 sessions, in fact, where I saw this resource being used by 2 different tutors. Now, the first tutor delivered from the front loaded this resource on the front of onto the whiteboard, got learners to come up and click the answers that they thought were right, and press, actually it was a touch screen, so they came and touched the screen where they thought the answers were right. Now that was obviously very, very interactive. You've got learners coming up and discussing it as part of a group. You're using the resource as a full group. The other way I saw it being used was where the tutor got to this point where the resource started and said, okay, now go away into 2s or 3s within the classroom. They were in an IT suite, so they could do that. Go away, 2s or 3s on each computer, work through the answers, what you think, work through the resource, and then we'll come back and reflect on the answers that you gave. Now, both equally valid ways of doing this, and both equally engaging ways of doing this as well. Just on that point, to mention that the learners do have access to every single resource of the individual resources. They have access through their own login onto our Moodle system, so they can do that, and they can, if they really want to come back and revisit those resources at a later date. So I'll just have a quick look at one more of the activities that we have in here. So this is a CV review process. So within this, the learner would, or the tutor can download a copy of a template CV that they can review, and then within the activity, and again this could be done by the tutor from the front or done by learners in small groups or individually, they can then review that that CV and check whether it has met specific criteria which make a good CV. So they go through that answer. Now, as you can see, these aren't necessarily brand new changing the world, reinventing the wheel resources. These are resources and activities that you've probably done and used in a paper-based format. What we've done is taken those resources and activities and put them into a format that we know is more engaging for the learners that you're working with and that we work with. And just made them into, as you can see, into a digital format, kept them nice and simple, because you don't want to have something that's overly complex and convoluted, so keep them as simple as possible. Now, again, we've got, as I said before, we've still got quite a bit to get through, so I won't linger too long on the resources. But what I will do is, as I said, if you would like to see some more of these resources and to have a good look at all of the sessions and all of the programs within that, let me know afterwards, and I will send a login out to you. Just one question that's just popped up onto the thing that I think is probably worth touching on at this point is evidence of, sorry, it's very small, evidence of the programs being used and working. Now, we have used this with a number of our providers and colleges that we work with already, and others that our staff aren't based in. Now, in terms of the two key points I think that I made at the start, in terms of how does it improve self-fill rates, well, we've seen with one of our providers that use this, their self-fill rates with the learners that use this program went from 5% up to 34%, so a reasonably good increase. And we've also saw in another college, the participation rates went from, I think it was just over 30%, so 31%, to 92%. So a real increase there. So it's good to see it being used and being used well. So how much does it cost? Well, this program, the Progression to Work Experience program that you saw, is an annual license, so that's unlimited tutor use, unlimited learner use for the full year. That is £2,400 inclusive of VAT. As you can see, we've got a couple of other programs, so Progression to Apprenticeships, so it's the similar program but with the context of apprenticeships, and Study Program Enrichment, which is a bit of a larger program and looks a bit more at the soft skills. Now, all three packages, as you can see, for a slightly discounted price. And again, just conscious of time, so I'll skip through this. As you can see, you do get a lot for your money. You get a lot of resource and support and help. Okay, so I did say at the start I would very quickly look at some employability skills, themes and trends. These have come through from the use of BestTest, which is our brand new psychometric employability skills diagnostic tool, which gives you, you have two assessments, so you can get a start and end point and measure distance travelled and really understand where the strengths and weaknesses of your learners are. In terms of the results so far, we have seen a statistically significant difference in gender and in level. So statistically speaking, females are better or display better stronger employability skills than the males do. Now, by statistically significant means that the results is unlikely to be due to chance. So this is giving us a good indication that this is in fact true. Now, as you expect with level, the bottom one there, that increases as you go up through the level, so level 1 to level 2 to level 3, your employability skills tends to increase accordingly. In terms of age, there has been no statistical significant difference to date. So that's suggesting that a 16-year-old in education is displaying the same employability skills as a 24-year-old in education. Now that is, for me, that's quite interesting. I can go into that in more detail at another time. In terms of course, I'll come back and revisit that very, very shortly. But what does BestTest assess? So it assesses the learner's employability skills. So you get an overall employability score, and each learner gets a score for each of those 10 key metrics that you can see on the right-hand side of your screen now. So if you have a quick pen and paper, just quickly jot down the order in which you think your learners would display those employability skills. So which would be their strengths and which would be their weaknesses. So if you quickly spend 30 seconds doing that. Okay, so what have we seen so far? Well, these are the results and the average scores that we have so far nationally. So as you can see, professionalism and sociability is pretty high. And if you think about the context of what we're talking about today, in work experience, that is encouraging. If you have somebody who's displays good, very professional in their outlook according to work and is very social in their outlook to work. Now, sociability doesn't, in this context, isn't how well do they get on with their friends. This is in a workplace setting. So those two would both lead me to think that actually this learner is probably ready to go out on work experience. Now, clearly there is a link between the soft skills, which are the attitudes or attributes, and the hard skills, which are behaviours. So if you, for example, again, leaning on the professionalism and sociability factor, clearly those two will influence, if you score well in that will influence interview skills and workplace behaviours. And accordingly, if you have high motivation and high organisation, that will impact on your job search skills positively. Now, one to worth mention there, CV, now this isn't an assessment of their physical copy of their CV. It is an assessment of their understanding of what CV is, what it does, and how it should be used. So it's not actually assessing their physical copy of the CV. So you could see how initiative, another of the low-scoring attributes there, would impact on that score. Now, in terms of curriculum areas, this slide is a selection of curriculum areas which have scored higher than average. So coming above that 58.5% national employability skills average score. A couple to draw your attention to, I suppose. One's sports studies and media, which are two media especially identified earlier as one being one which struggle with their work experience. So it's interesting to see the learners are actually displaying pretty good or above average employability skills. Another one to mention is ESOL. Now that is, I was slightly surprised that was quite so high, but it is in truth, it's one of the smaller cohorts of learners, so we may see that shift as we have more ESOL learners take the assessment. And then those which are below, and again, coming back to what I said earlier about early years and health and social care being those curriculum areas which wouldn't struggle with putting people out on work experience, it's interesting to see that both of those curriculum areas are coming out below average, which is not what I expected, I must admit. Now it'll be interesting to see, just the context is that this is the formative assessment. This is at the start of the course. So it'll be interesting to see, actually, come the end of the course, has health and social care and has early years increased, or the distance travelled, is that significantly better or higher than the rest of the other curriculum areas where they're not so familiar or as used to the links with industry that those two curriculum areas have. So that'll be an interesting one for me, anyway, to keep my eye on. Well, sorry for rattling through this, but I'm very conscious of time. So BestTest, brand new product. In terms of price for BestTest, it's £2 per learner, inclusive of VAT. You also, as well as a learner by learner report, so you get a learner scorecard detailing all of those scores that we just looked at, so those hard and those soft skills, getting an individual score for each of those, so essentially a spiky profile with which to work from. You also get reports which provide the opportunity for you to compare between levels, between courses, between curriculum areas, between campuses or regions, so you can get a really good idea of what's going on within your organisation in terms of employability skills. It's an online tool, so it's accessed via your portal. It's a really easy setup because it's web-based, so it really is as simple as just sending you a link. There's no login, so no login details for your learners to remember. There's no login details for your tutors to remember. So it really is a very simple and straightforward tool to use. Now, I apologise in advance for not getting through all of the questions that have come in. I will come back to you on some of those, or all of those questions afterwards. If you have any further questions, you can see my contact details on the screen. Please feel free to give me a call, send me an email, and I look forward to speaking to you in the very near future. Thank you very much for the time. Speak to you soon. Take care. Bye bye.